Okay, this is to announce the new book, John Mcdougall, The Doctor Who Fought for You, a book about Dr. Mcdougall written by Peter Rogers. Subtitle of the book is The Greatest Doctor Who Ever Lived. It's about 235 pages. Just became available on Amazon. It's only available at Amazon as a paperback or a Kindle book, or it was an electronic book, or a audio book. So the reason I called it John Mcdougall, the Doctor Who Fought for You, is because he many times did things for the best interest of the patients that were detrimental to his own financial career, his medical career, his reputation with the hospital system, etc. The reason I call him the greatest doctor who ever lived is because he cured more patients than anyone else. You know, a patient defines the best doctor as the one that's able to cure them. Okay, private practice hospital defines the best doctor as the one who makes the most money for the hospital. The big university research place will say the one who writes the most papers. You know, the industry will say the one who helps them to make the most money. Okay, so we're going to go by the patient's definition. And the reason I say he cured more patients than anyone else is because Kempner saw about 19,000 patients in his Rice Clinic set up in Durham, North Carolina, but Mcdougall only saw about 12,000. However, Mcdougall cured far more because of all his work with internet videos, his website, his newsletter, his telehealth. McDougall's a genius. I'm telling you, I've studied all of them. McDougall's the smartest, the best one. Okay, the most devoted, most honest of them. He knows the nutritional literature better than anyone else. He's really quite of a nerd. I mean, he's constantly going through all these references, and that's why he's so awesome in debate, because he really knows the literature well, and he can specifically cite the literature to prove that he is correct. He pioneered, developed the low-fat, whole food, starch-based vegan diet with no oils. That's the best diet. And you'll notice, listen to most of these other nutrition experts. How often do you ever tell them the most important thing they need to do is eat starch? That's the most important thing. McDougall emphasizes that all the time. I can tell you, I've been a doctor over 30 years, triple boarded, high tech, etc. And the most important thing I ever learned since I was a little science student back in high school was the most important thing a person could do is eat starch. McDougall recommends that people eat 90% or more of their calories from starch. 90% or more. The exception he makes to that is he says if they're trying to lose weight, then they should increase the percent of vegetables they eat, to as much as 50%. Try it out at first at 70%, and you'll lose weight rapidly. But if you're still having some trouble, he says drop it down to 50, but don't go below 50% because then you'll start running into problems. Okay, so anyways, what else about him? The great thing about the McDougall diet, low-fat, whole food, starch-based vegan diet with no oils is that it's easy to sustain for the rest of your life. It's pleasant to eat that. One feels good. One has great energy, great concentration, optimal body weight. Their hypertension is routinely cured. Diabetes type 2 routinely cured. Autoimmune disease very often cured. So it's you feel good, and so it's easy to sustain. A lot of these other diets, you can actually lose weight on any diet, for 6 months just by having a lot of willpower, but they're difficult to sustain, and quite often they make you sick, like the high-fat diets make you constipated and cause all kinds of other problems, increase atherosclerosis, etc., increase insulin resistance, for example. Okay. Now here is the mind map for how I wrote the book. I've written like 20 books. This, by the way, this is all available on Amazon, the paperback, the audiobook, and the Kindle ebook version. When writing a book, the first thing I do is just get the idea, and I sort of think it through in my head a little bit. Then I write a mind map. A mind map is better when you're starting out on a project than an outline, because an outline forces you to put everything into order. And when you try to do that and you're not ready to do that, and you're not sure of the order, then it becomes awkward. You can get a writer's block type of feeling. Forget about that. You make a mind map because there's no pressure on the order. You just put book in the center, Dr. Mcdougall book. And then what are you going to do to write it? I went through all of his newsletters, okay? Then I went to his website. I went through everything on his website, the Star McDougallers and all the other stuff on his website. I read 6 of his books. Most important book he ever wrote, his best book was Starch Solution. Okay, Gastrointestinal Tune-Up is a great book. He wrote McDougall for Women, McDougall for Maximum Weight Loss, McDougall for Prevention of Cardiovascular and Heart Disease, all that stuff. Okay, he made Best Diet on the Planet, okay, all this stuff. I also collected all his best quotes because that's one of my favorite parts, and a lot of times you can remember an issue very easily by just remembering the quote. McDougall says, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. So it's a reminder you want to eat a low-fat diet. Okay, McDougall says, everybody asks, what is will I ever be healthy again? Is there anything I can do to be healthy again? And McDougall says, Starch is the solution to your health problem. He's very clear about that. He says, eat 90% of your calories from starch. The more starch you eat, the healthier you get. And then just supplement that with 5% from fruits, 5% from vegetables. That's the Mcdougall diet. 90% of calories from starch, 5% from fruits, 5% from vegetables. You don't have to be exactly 5% of each, but, in that ballpark. Let's see what else. I went through all the videos at his YouTube channel. I only went to the ones at his YouTube channel just because there's so many of them, and I refer them back then to his YouTube channel, okay? And in the book, I describe his website and all the stuff on his website, all the features. It's an awesome website, including, not to mention, he's got unique videos there of interviews with Burkett, interviews with Pritikin, lectures from Swank. He has Kempner's book, the only place you can get Kempner's book, written by Kempner himself. And you can also get Pritikin's legacy book, his last and best of his books. Pritikin is a great writer. Pritikin, is just like, he's really good. He says that Pritikin was his most important mentor, okay? Burkett's the one who first taught him that diet and disease are connected, okay? Kempner proved that, even a very strict vegan diet was nutritionally adequate. All the details of that. And Swank, has shown that what you could do with autoimmune disease was fantastic. He's got the best results of anybody for the treatment of multiple sclerosis, including with 34-year follow-up. So these are Dr. Mcdougall's main mentors. And I had to restudy them because I wrote, chapter sections on each one of them as well. The night theme of paintings was a way to make it more fun and decorative, and I liked the way a lot of the night paintings reminded me of John and Mary. I had a section on FAQs for miscellaneous material. Went through the common internal medicine type questions: obesity and weight loss, hypertension, atherosclerosis, diabetes, autoimmune, cancer, dementia. Coronary artery disease and impotence go together, okay? The impotence arteries are the pudendal arteries, go to the Johnson, and they're about 1.5 millimeters in diameter. Coronary arteries to the heart, they're about 3 millimeters in diameter. And then the arteries to the brain, carotid arteries, I don't have them included here, but carotid arteries to the brain are about 6 millimeters. So you can remember, they just double, 1.5 pudendals to the Johnson, 3 millimeter coronaries, and then 6 millimeter carotid to the brain. So you're going to manifest quite often first as impotence before coronary artery disease. So you want to prevent atherosclerosis. The sooner the better, guys. You're going to end up impotent taking those, Viagra-like pills. You don't want to have to do that because eventually it'll go occlude and it'll stop working. Anyways, but that's how I write a book. And then the other thing I did, I'll just talk a little bit more about how I wrote a book. The other thing I'll do is I try to go to bed early so I can wake up early in the morning, because you're smartest in the morning, and I'll try to write in the morning. Because I had to write the book pretty quick because I'm working full time. I don't have a lot of free time. So I'd get up early in the morning and I would just crank on it. I mean, I would spend the whole day off doing nothing but writing the book because I wanted to get it done. I was enthusiastic about it. My energy level was high. I have to crank it out. So that's how I do it. I go to bed early, I wake up early, and I crank on the book, especially first thing in the morning. And I make goals for the day of the writing, and I try to force myself to do it. And it was very difficult in a sense because Dr. Mcdougall is so dense. When you read his stuff, he starts going through reference number 1, reference number 2, and, they're very meticulous. So it takes time to go through his work. It took me about twice as long to write this book as I thought it would, because I figured off the top of my head, I know Mcdougall very well. I've been studying him for, 2 decades. But to actually go through his work in detail, it was much more complex than I thought it was, okay? But, in the end, the most important thing is eat the Mcdougall diet. And then he just explains why in, a million different ways. Okay, here's just showing the cover. The cover is slightly different for the Kindle book. It's the same for the Kindle book as for the audio book. It's all available on Amazon.com. I'm going to give future videos where I go into more detail about the different topics, but I'm just basically announcing here that the book is available and the structure of how I wrote it. So I hope you find it helpful or enjoyable.